What is going down, faithful? We are back yet again for a State of the Franchise episode. This time we have 6 weeks to talk about, Jason. Lots of injuries, all kinds of stuff. Big game with the Chiefs. We're going to talk about the Falcons. We're going to get into it all right after this. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, everyone. We got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to talk about today, Jason. But before we get into all the nitty gritty, how are you feeling? How is Jason doing in the 49ers world?
I appreciate you asking that because it's always, what do you think about the 49ers? How are the 49ers doing? It's never, how is Jason doing? And I appreciate you for asking
it. How is my guy doing?
Yeah, a little under the weather, but we're fighting through it right now. Need to get it done. But I am actually glad that you actually took a day off yesterday so we could get away real quick. I love that for you. I love that for you. And I love that for any 49er fan that this week decided, I'm going to unplug a one day from it all. And I think it's very necessary. So I love that for you, Brad.
Well, I'm glad you could take a step back as well and kind of, get yourself together. Sorry to hear that you're under the weather and all that good stuff. But the 49ers are finding themselves under the weather as well. But as we know, some injury reports just to come out before we get on. So I figured we'll talk about it because that's all coming out right now. It does sound like Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Talanoa Hufanga, Jimmy Ward are trending towards being available. You also had Samson Ebukam and Mike McGlinchey, who were kind of going in and out of the Atlanta Falcons game. They're practicing as well. It doesn't sound like Eric Armstead or Charvarius Ward is trending in the right direction, but sounds like Jimmy Ward's going to be available with the club on his hand. Also sounds like Jason Verrett is off the practice reports, injury reports. So some reinforcements will be back. What is just your thoughts on the return of a lot of these pieces that have been missing for a while?
Yeah, I think that's something that is kind of lost right now amidst the chaos, amidst the panic with 49er fans is largely a lot of what you've seen, because we are a third of the way through the season. Largely what you have seen from many teams are who they are right now at this point, right? And they're not missing anybody. The 49ers, name another team that has lost their starting left tackle, starting quarterback, starting running back, starting cornerback, starting free safety, starting linebacker, starting interior defenders, some Nick Bosa guy who apparently is really good at football, right? So
backup tackles,
right? When you start to think about it, there's a lot of teams out there that are sitting at 3-3, but they largely are who they are at this point. There's no real impact players coming back for them. Think about the San Francisco 49ers and how many impact players are coming. Shout out to Troy, man. It was good to see you two at the Hard Rock in Atlanta. Man, the faithful, they travel so hard, man. Atlanta was late. It was so fun. But yeah, it does give you optimism if you're a 49ers fan, knowing, especially with this offense that's about to roll into town, that look at all of these impact players. These aren't just players that are somewhat contributing. These are literally some of the best players at their position, especially Trent Williams. So it's a welcome sight, and it might be in the nick of time right before this bye week, and that should give 49er fans some optimism, I believe.
I mean, you said it. We're talking about captains, right? We're talking about guys that wear C's on their chest. They're a big part of this. Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, anchoring both the trenches for the offensive and defensive lines. That's going to be a huge get back, especially, they got some good weapons over there with the Chiefs, and we'll get into the Chiefs preview in a little bit. But it is just great to hear that we're getting healthier. I think we're all kind of, we look at that Falcons game, it really did feel like the blue tent was the MVP of the game. You had guys running in and out of there. It was absolutely insane. And if you're a 49er fan, this is nothing new. We've been around these injuries for a long time. It's something that feels like a constant, out of everything else. But the positive is we're getting guys back, and that is going to help boost this team as they move forward. Let's talk a little bit about the Falcons game. I know it's a game that both you and I were very confident going into. You even had Steve Young go on to KNBR. He's like, the 49ers should have won that game. Like, regardless of what we all think and believe, got to tip our cap to the Atlanta Falcons. They had a great game plan. They executed, and I think that's the key factor there. The Falcons executed. It felt like the 49ers fell short of that. But what was your kind of overarching takeaway of that loss in Atlanta? I know you were there, so tell me a little bit about that as well.
Well, the first takeaway is that that's the most beautiful stadium I've ever been in. Sorry, guys.
It
I know
looks
you.
nice.
Yeah, I know you probably want me to say that it's Levi's. It's not. But it's Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Also, concessions wildly affordable. 2 sandwiches, a beer, and a soda, $23.
Oh, that's
Where
right.
on earth would that be? So, and look, I think you hit the nail on the head, Brad. 49er fans and many football fans. It's not just 49er fans. Football fans, when their team loses, are looking to directly blame someone on their team. Oh, it was the coach. Oh, it was this guy. Oh, it was this guy. Sometimes, and especially in this league full of parity right now because everybody's basically 3-3 in the NFC. Sometimes you have to tip your cap and say they executed, they did everything right. And you know, I think that Arthur Smith did a really good job with his run game. Marcus Mariota, that 3rd and 13 was a big backbreaker. Like that's you've got to get off the field on 3rd and 13. You cannot allow that to happen with the legs. But yeah, and I think everybody was trying to figure out what's wrong with this offense. And I'm going to say it again. I think it boils down to execution. Everything's right there for you to get it done. But the problem is this, and I understand everyone's concern because we feel like after all of these losses, we're repeating the same thing over and over. And it's true. We are. After Denver, after Chicago, after this loss, it's, oh, man, they didn't execute. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're close. They're about to turn the corner. Yeah, well, it's 6 weeks now. It's 6 weeks. So where does this fall? Sure, some of that goes to the head coach. The head coach has to prepare, and you have to figure out why they aren't executing, and that goes to the coach. But again, it's not so much that you need to. You can look at it one of two ways. You can say, well, it's 6 weeks and they're not executing, or you can say, well, they're really close and they are. It depends on your own temperament, how you feel about this team going forward. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. If you feel like you're super concerned, you have every right to be. But also, if you want to take the optimistic approach, you look at who's coming back. You look at all those plays left on the field. I'm not even just talking about the drops. I'm talking about a penalty that brought back a Brandon Ayuk catch. I'm talking about just straight, flat out misses. Again, like guys running wide open. It's all still there. So there's like this overarching narrative right now about, well, Kyle's offense everywhere across the league is just being stopped. No, stop. It's not that at all. And if you were going to just cite those teams and their numbers, please contextualize all of that with what's going on, right? Oh, Green Bay's offense is struggling. That's a Shanahan offense. Cool. They have 0 weapons. Devontae Adams, who knew leaving would be a problem, right? They have guys who can't get open. The Jets are doing pretty well. Nobody's talking about that. Mike McDaniel, when he had all his guys healthy, they were doing pretty well. The offense is fine. But you have to contextualize each team with their circumstances. And right now, for the 49ers, it boils down to execution. Execution. That's it, man. If it's not a drop pass, if it's not a fumble, if it's not a penalty calling things back, it's one of those things, and it's never the same thing over and over. So it boils down to execution, and that falls on Kyle Shanahan at some point, right?
Feels like it all boils kind of back to game flow in a sense, like the way things stack together, because you had the Falcons put together a phenomenal drive. That first drive, scored the touchdown. It was long. It was methodical. It was, again, we keep coming back to well executed. They were just hitting everything. It was like they had a good day in the office. Well, they score. Then the 49ers come out, fumble, turn into a score, and all of a sudden you're in a 14-0 hole. Like, what the heck just happened? Like, we just got off the bus ready to go, and all of a sudden we blink our eyes and it's 14-0. And that changes the way offensive games are called. You know, Kyle loves scripting those first 12, 15, 24 plays, whatever it is. And when you find yourself in a 14-0 hole, it really changes the complexion and plan that you get into, right? Because what did Mike Tyson say? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to the 49ers. And I feel like they got away from the run game, right? We look at the Atlanta Falcons. It was like, man, not only did the Atlanta Falcons look like they executed the type of game plan the 49ers would want to execute, you also kind of look at Marcus Mariota, the ability to do the zone read and the running. You're like, damn, that kind of looks like the offense you would imagine with Trey Lance a little bit. And you're just like, okay, we can kind of see the path forward. Of course,
Mhm.
that's a conversation for another day.
Mhm.
But it started off in a rocky spot, but they were able to kind of get back on track. The momentum felt like it started to go back their way. Then it was the drops. Then it was like kind of the lack of execution, right? That started to pile up. You can maybe look at injuries and things like that. But when you look at that loss and we look at the kind of like the evolution of the loss, it's not something that we can say, oh, it's the end of the world, right? The 49ers got to
Mhm.
pack it up, start playing
No.
for next year. It's just one of those things. You got to get back in the lab and you got to fine tune
Yeah.
all these little things, right? And is that what you kind of see it as well?
Yeah, I walked away after watching the tape feeling a lot more encouraged because it's all there. They're very close. It's minute details, but it's a game of inches, and those are the things that can end up costing you, right? And
Yeah.
I see a comment here that says Kyle's not using his playmakers. I would say that for everybody who is saying, well, Kyle's not in his bag, he's not innovating. Let me pose this to you. You're a defense, and you see Charlie Warner come out, and Charlie Warner's a blocking tight end. But using that knowledge against the defense, Charlie Warner's running butt ass naked by himself, and there's a throw that he should
Wide
catch.
open.
Right, right. Like if that was George Kittle would not be that wide open. If that was Brandon Ayuk, he would
He
not
would be
be that wide open.
bracketed, right?
Right, exactly. So, like again, you want Kyle to innovate, you want Kyle to put explosive plays out there, right? But you know that those guys are going to draw that attention, and you're using the defense's knowledge against them to get you an explosive play. You just didn't execute it. So again, it's still all right there for you. Like it's still like I walked away watching the tape and saying, "Damn, right here they had a play, just missed the block." Like Jeff Wilson had a block where if a guy holds it for half a second more, he slides through it and it's a bigger gain. Again, it's
Yeah.
this close. It's right there. But
Yep.
again, I understand your frustration because it is a third of the season of this where we're talking about the same exact things. But I did it. And then the one other thing I want to point out before we get into the thing that I'm really upset with Kyle Shanahan about, and it really has nothing to do with any of those things.
We haven't
I
talked
think you
about
have.
this, but I think we're on. I think we're on the
Oh
same
yeah.
page. But get to your point. Get to your
Oh
point.
yeah. Is damn it, I lost it. I'm just mad about the clock management more than anything. Like towards the end of the game, like I lost my voice yelling at like go go go, right?
You're
But
like, well,
oh, here it is. I got it back. I know, I got it back. It's the lack of consistency, not only from week to week, but drive to drive, man. You see
yeah.
2 drives back to back where Brendan Ayuk is absolutely balling and Jimmy's like throwing that thing, and you're like, there goes the offense, but then it goes away, right? And
Right.
I don't necessarily think that has to do as much with play calling as it does with my execution sake. Like it's execution, and they're not executing, right? Like I want you guys again, and I know we've said this a million times, but I want you guys again because I think this week I saw it so much, and I think Rich just posted a video of it. Watch Kyle Shanahan after one of those drops on one of those big plays, and watch how upset he is because he's like what else can coach do, man? Drew it up, dialed it up, perfect throw, everything was perfect except the execution of the play at the end, and that's got to be infinitely frustrating for a guy like Kyle Shanahan, right? So again,
Yeah.
you can say what you want, right? And you could be concerned. I'm not upset with you if you're concerned. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is right there, and it is that close, and that's
Yeah.
where they are, right? So maybe it's taking a little bit longer than you want. More than I want, right? Like I want this offense to start rolling, right? But it's the lack of consistency, not only from drive to drive, week to week, but then that little stuff, that the little minute details that are right there. And the good news is
Right.
that's fixable. That's fixable. And that's the
Absolutely.
part. That's not being biased. That's not being a homer. It's just little stuff, and the little stuff adds up, and that's when you end up with a result that you saw on Sunday.
I think you're absolutely right. And when you talked about the comments are mentioned, getting your targets involved and your weapons involved. If you look at the stat sheet, Brandon Ayuk, 8 catches, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. Could have had an even larger day. George Kittle, 8 catches, 83 yards. Could have had an even larger day. Deebo Samuel, 7 catches, 79 yards. Kyle Juszczyk, even 4 receptions, 33 yards. They were getting the ball into the hands of their playmakers. It was just again, it feels like game flow. Like it started out, they got the 2 touchdowns to Brandon Ayuk, but again, they went away from it, or they were scheming other guys open, like a Ray McLeod, or like you mentioned, a Charlie Warner, because they are playing their defenses to stop the weapons, and the other guys that you pay money to as well needed to step up and they didn't. And it really just throws a massive wrench because we know Kyle, right? He's scheming like 3-4 plays ahead. He's trying to do certain things, certain runs. They might not look great, but he's going to execute a play action off of it. And when he dials it up, it's going to be there. But if you don't hit it, it's like a big loss, because that drop to Ray McCloud, beautiful throw by Jimmy Garoppolo to put it right there on the money. You hit a wide receiver in the hands, you got to bring it in. That's just what it comes down to. I don't care if you're the 5th wide receiver, the 6th wide receiver, practice squad. Come on, you're in the NFL. You got to catch that.
Absolute dime by Jimmy.
I don't think there's any excuses for not catching that. You know, it's just an unfortunate drop for Ray. But that play takes you out of scoring position, gives the ball back to Atlanta, and then they score. And that puts you in a 2-score hole towards the end of the game. And then we knew what happened after that. But the weapons are there. The plays are there. It's like, how do we get this thing supercharged a little bit?
This
like
close.
Where's, I think the word that came out of this game that I saw from everyone, urgency. Where's the urgency? I don't think, if we take a step back and we get out of our frustrations and things like that, we see the plays, we see the potential. I think Jawan Jennings, he potentially had a touchdown on a tunnel screen if he didn't run ahead of his blockers. If he just waited and let the blocks develop, he could have been housed. But it's just things like that. And but that drive at the end of the game, I think you mentioned it. It drives me crazy. Like, we're big fans of Kyle Shanahan. We appreciate him as a coach and a schemer and a play caller and things like that. But I think I would imagine, and again, I haven't talked to you about this yet, but I was very frustrated watching that drive. Down 2 scores, milking 8 minutes off the clock. It felt like they were up 2 scores and they were trying to get the clock down. Again, could be nitpicking or whatever, but it's an urgency thing, right? That's what it felt like. And I'm curious to know how you felt being in the stands watching it unfold live.
Well, I mean, this is a family show, so I can't really go word by word for what I was yelling. But yeah, I lost my voice. I just did, man. When you see them huddling back up, it's like that drive was the drive that 49er fans wanted to see when they're winning. And he and he did that. I mean, he milked the clock, sure did, but
great job. 8+ minutes off the clock.
That's exactly what you're looking for down the stretch. Oh, wait, you're down 2 scores. And I didn't particularly care for the answer after about, we mixed it up a little. We did this and we did, dude, come on, man. Like,
come on,
look,
man.
Look, yeah, we're big Kyle Shanahan fans, but he's not above criticism. He doesn't escape it. So, that was the part that really frustrated me. No urgency, no sort of giddy up, anything like that. Playing like you were up 2 scores, trying to finish the game. I lost my voice. Unfortunately, my post game show was littered with me barely trying to being able to speak. So yeah, it was frustrating to say the least. Shout out to the Falcons fans. They were actually really nice about it. They were just like, damn, I don't know what he's doing either. So it's not like I was just being completely irrational.
It was everyone in a community. Like, what the hell is Kyle?
They're like, man, the Falcons fans were like, man, this is good. Like, I love it.
Hell yeah. Keep going. Take as much time as you want.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my biggest frustration and takeaway. And it's just to get to the podium after and say, well, it's almost like Kyle forgot. You needed to score, you needed to stop, then you needed to score again to even just tie the game. It just felt like Kyle was looking at everyone who was asking questions about it and almost saying, you're dumb for not looking at it my way. And it's like, look, man, you're much smarter than I am when it comes to football. But I think we understand what happens with the clock. And it only exacerbates the things that people have said about Kyle and his clock management, right? It only just adds on to that because now they can point to this. So, yeah. How was Magic City, Kelly?
It's almost like proving the perception at a certain point, right?
It did. That was a bullet point for many people who are Kyle critics, and that literally just goes right under it. It. Yeah.
And they're gonna keep that in the holster whenever they need to bring it out. Because let's take it, and I think that's a better great transition into kind of like a more global conversation of Kyle Shanahan for the last 6 years. We talk about the offensive genius, the offensive play caller, schemer. we look at this team, they've got weapons, right? Even though there's injuries, there's injuries, and we're not going to pretend like that's not part of the dichotomy of what's going on here. But still, Jimmy Garoppolo's been here for years. George has been here for years. Debo got paid. Ayuk is up and coming. He had a breakout game essentially. Jeff Wilson's been here for years. Like we still got guys. I don't think that's an excuse.
No.
Why does it always feel like the offense is a step behind?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think that there is a little bit of I have no idea. And sometimes it has to do with, execution. Think about how this game would drastically look different if Charlie Warner brings in that pass, is able to run a little bit. That's a scoring drive. Ray's able to come down with that pass because he stumbled out of his route. That's a touchdown. Again, and then that swings momentum and puts them in a position. So it's just, I think the better question would be, why does it take the offense a few weeks to get rolling, or at this point 6 weeks now to get rolling?
That's a great point.
Now, one more
We've
thing.
Been doing this for a while now,
right? One more thing I want to point out is there was a stat that came out about teams that have scored 30 points every year after 6 weeks, and this is the lowest amount of teams that have scored 30 points in an offensive-driven league where you can't even breathe on the quarterback. 25 teams have scored 30 points, and it's an all-time low. There is something happening across the league right now with defenses, and a lot of that has to do with Rich Madrid's favorite guy, Vic Fangio, and the way that they have been kind of taking things away that have been successful year after year. So there is some adjustments to be made. Having said that, there's still guys running wide open. There's still great play designs happening. There's still plays to be had on the field. They're just left on the field. So the better question would be, why is it after 6 weeks do we have to ask the same questions that we do year after year? Sure, this team is probably going to get hot and get on a run, and the offense is going to start clicking, and they'll start putting up points, I believe, for sure, especially when lesser opponents start to walk in the door, right, on defense. I definitely think that's going to happen. But at the same time, it's valid for people to feel frustrated right now at this point, especially when you look at all of those weapons that you labeled. And sure, not having Elijah Mitchell, Trent Williams, that matters. But at the same time, when you pop on the film, it's all still there to be had. And it just boils down, again, the word of the day is going to be execution.
Execution, absolutely. I'm going to sprinkle on some urgency on top. I saw Josh Dubois of the AP put out a stat that Kyle Shanahan is 0-26 when trailing by more than 4 points after 3 quarters of football. And that's, urgency, being able to kind of get back on track after you've been punched in the face. We know Kyle Shanahan is, run first team, that kind of stuff. He likes to play with leads and then kind of use the defense and all those different types of things. Game flow, right? Game flow dictates a lot of what Kyle's going to do from a successful standpoint. But sheesh, can't even talk, man.
Yeah, right.
But moving forward, the 49ers got a big test ahead. Chiefs coming in, Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be angry, man. They just lost to the Bills, prime time. What have the 49ers got to do to get back on track against the Chiefs?
I think we can boil it down to something as elementary as when the clock hits 0, the 49ers need to have more points than the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just kidding. Yeah, boom, instant analysis. That is the fire stuff. No,
that's why you're here, ladies and gentlemen.
Seriously, no, seriously, that's obviously a joke. No, seriously, the offense is going to have to score points in this game. I know that there are going to be reinforcements. It doesn't look like Mooney Ward's going to play. We're all excited for Jason Verrett, but it would be remiss of us to just say, oh, well, JV is going to be like he was in 2020 and not know what could happen in this game. I mean, when you're down to your 4th and 5th corner, Womack and Lenore, who played in Atlanta, things are going to get hairy. Now, having said that, take a look at Andy Reid's record after losses. Take a look at Kyle Shanahan's record after losses, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. Something's got to give here. Basically, Andy Reid doesn't lose back-to-back games, neither does Kyle Shanahan. But right. I did think what I watched in the Buffalo game was a little bit of a blueprint that can be used to slow down the Kansas City Chiefs, because you're not going to stop them. You're not going to stop them and shut them out. You have to be able to slow them down. How do you do that? Well, You're gonna have to find a way to not let Travis Kelsey catch the ball, which everybody, every single drive, every single play knows the ball is going right to him because Juju
Right.
can't separate. Marcus Valdez-Scantling is not separating. Mecole Hardman is not separating. They don't have a lot of guys that separate. But what Buffalo did was I found interesting, and this was a really genius game plan, and I think a lot of people are going to steal it. Right, copycat league. You're gonna do this right. Gets to the quarterback, but you have to run a bunch of man. They ran man 16% of the time. 16% of the time. They ran it 54% of the time against the Kansas City Chiefs. So not only, and look, that's easy to say, not easy to do. And it's also easier to do when your personnel is there, right? Like they've got good corners. They don't even have Tre'Davious White back, but they do have, Jordan Poyer. They do have, what's his name? Is it Elam, right? Like from Florida. He's been playing very well, but you could see that slowed them down. I mean, if you held the Kansas City Chiefs to 20 points, you've got to feel good about where you're at, right? But then again, it boils all right back down to the San Francisco offense, which I do think this Kansas City Chiefs defense can be had, but there is that one guy that can really wreck the game. And I don't want to bring up his name. I mean, this whole week is going to be littered with PTSD, right? Like if you really want to get sad, just play Roddy Rich the box and think about Emmanuel Sanders and all that stuff. But Chris Jones. Chris Jones is the guy who can really, really destroy this game. Like
in a hurry too.
And he's so good, man. So his pass block win rate, his pass rush win rate is like 1 or 2 in the league. So that's inside. This is a big test for Banks, Brendel, and Burford or Brunskill because maybe you can give me some insight as to why they keep doing that. But I have an idea maybe, but I have no solid idea. But Chris Jones is the one guy on this defense that can really swing a game. And if this line struggles to block him, you guys have seen the result, and I don't want to bring it up, but yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge test for Brendel. I mean, Brendel struggled mightily with Grady Jarrett, and the big thing with Brendel is he's going to put himself in position to make plays, but he just doesn't have the play strength to be able to withstand when these defensive tackles are reading and reacting, and when they want to get off, they just get off, and so that makes it really difficult. And I think it's a big part of why we're seeing the run game kind of struggle to get going sometimes, because these interior tackles are having they're not always successful. Brendel is, he's going to do a good job, but there are a lot of instances where he can get thrown to the side with relative ease, and I think it can mess things up quite a bit in a hurry. So Chris Jones is going to be a huge key of this game, and the fastest way to disrupt any type of play is through the interior, up the middle, and so they're going to have to figure it out. Now, thankfully, Aaron Banks, when it comes to pass protection, is playing at he's playing at a Pro Bowl level.
He's been incredible.
I can't even explain it from a pass blocking standpoint, but this unit as a whole, they still need to improve in run blocking as a unit. It's not one particular person, it's everyone gelling together, and they got to continue to get that in the right spot, because when it does work, you see the holes. They open up. You saw it against the Panthers and things like that. So there is a potential to get this thing back on track, but Chris Jones is going to make it extremely difficult. But thankfully, you get Trent Williams back. Maybe you run a little bit more outside. This game, I probably stay away from the interior, especially. One of the things that I saw that was pretty smart by the Chiefs, they put Chris Jones outside the tackle as an edge, and he got home outside the tackle as an edge. He's just a freak. He's just, you got to tip your cap to players like that. He is a really good player. It's going to be a huge test for this offensive line. You could argue he's up there with Aaron Donald. Obviously doesn't have the same pedigree and things like that, but from when you just boil it down to traits, he is a traits guy. Like, he's got everything. So he's going to be really hard to defend. But Nick Bosa comes back. How important is Nick Bosa getting back onto that edge? The way Omenahu's playing, the way these guys on the defensive line continue to play. Thankfully, the 49ers haven't lost Fred Warner, knocking on wood, or Dre Greenlaw yet. And it does sound like Jimmy Ward will be back. And what is Jimmy Ward known for? Erasing tight ends. And their number one weapon on that offense is Travis Kelsey. And thankfully, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Jimmy Ward are pretty serviceable when it comes to defending tight ends. So what is your take on all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because it gives you flexibility and it keeps Hufanga back there so he can, ball hawk as well too. Again, like I'm not as concerned with the wide receivers as I am Kelsey. Like, and that's the thing is, and the other thing is what makes Kelsey so effective is, and Kyle Shanahan sung his praises, is when Mahomes starts scrambling, they have that connection where and you can't cover for 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, right? So they have that connection. They know where to go. Like, I mean, you watched him have 4 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. He has 7 catches for 25 yards. And one of those touchdowns was literally a play where Mahomes got outside and, Kelsey redirected his route, found some leverage, and just like weaved his way through everybody. That's going to be the matchup to watch. Jimmy Ward can do that. They can mix in some things where, Fred has been carrying number 3 receivers up the field. I mean, Hufanga carried Jason Verrett up the seam, not Jason Verrett, Tyler Lockett up the seam in Seattle, right? And it led to an interception. So Jimmy Ward being there not only is great for the run defense because he's such a hitter, right? And he knows how to play there, but it's more about being able to slow down Kelsey and make some of these other guys beat you. Make Juju Smith-Schuster beat you. Make Miko Hardman beat you. And then when you look at the running backs, I mean, they don't really have a semblance of a run game.
Oh, I'm surprised you're not wearing the Jet
McKinnon,
Jet McKinnon jersey today.
Jerick McKinnon, quarterback
is that put to the side for
no, it's his revenge game. I hope he doesn't have revenge or anything like that in this one. But
playing him a lot too, right?
They have because they're not running the ball. Jets their primary catcher out of the backfield. So again, it's a lot of the things that they've been able to get away with have been because of how good Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey are. So I don't even think that the Chiefs offense has necessarily been like clicking, right? Like at that point. And how much of that has to do with the fact that they lost Tyreek Hill? Like I think people kind of just like were like, oh well, it's Mahomes. No. Like they're lacking a little bit of explosion, but still you cannot take this offense lightly because of the report those guys have. But you have to be able to make someone else on this offense beat you. You cannot allow Travis Kelsey to catch the ball 10 times for 125 yards. That's going to be a bad day for this team because then it just opens so many things up for the rest of them. So you've got to slow him down. You have to find a way to slow him down.
Do you kind of feel like and get a sense that that's going to be what the game flow is going to look like? It's going to be a lot of passing. Like, would you be surprised if we see Patrick Mahomes throw for 40 times in this game? Because let's face it, like, Clyde's Edwards-Helaire started off the season pretty hot. He's definitely cooled down. They're definitely using Jet McKinnon more because, like you said, they're passing more, and he's the passing down back. And they're also using him as a runner more. But their running game just hasn't really been there since the start of the year. It's making them kind of one-dimensional. So do you see that kind of being the potential case heading into this game? Also considering you have the formidable linebackers in the middle. And, although no Javon Kinlaw, doesn't sound like Eric Armstead is going to be available. The 49ers did okay against the Falcons, but the Falcons were just getting those 3, 4, 5-yard chunk runs that were able to get them into other favorable down and distances. So do you think this could turn into a big time passing showcase by Patrick Mahomes in this game, and literally just got to figure out how do we neutralize Kelsey and make the other guys beat us?
Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a showcase, but I do expect at least 40 throws. A lot of this hinges on who's going to be starting outside and what the effectiveness looks like. If it's going to be Jason Verrett and Lenore, okay, like, you can be optimistic. You can be optimistic, as we all are. Like, Jason Verrett literally went from being a luxury to being a must-have right now. Like, where would this team be, like, at this point? And when you think about it, being down to your 4th and 5th corners, Womack and Lenore, and it's like, man, Ambry Thomas can't even sniff the field at this point. So, like, what's going on, like, with everything, like, as far as that? Right. So, again, it boils down to what's going to happen, the health of those guys. But I do think that they will be throwing the ball a bunch. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be in shotgun this whole game when you think about what's going on with Chris Jones, right? Like, you have to be able to offset that and stay away from letting him blow things up. So you'll see Jimmy in shotgun a lot. I don't know if he's going to throw the ball a ton, but I think that all hinges on how effective the running game is, clearly, and what the game flow is. Like, obviously, if the Chiefs get out to a quick lead and maybe there's some things going on, cool, you got to get right back to it. I don't want to hear you just sticking to the run if you're down 21-0. Like, it just can't happen that way. So it's really going to come down to How effective are these corners, right? Like you can put Jimmy Ward on Kelsey all day, but if Marcus Valdez-Scantling's having his way with Diamador Lenore or Samuel Womack, or maybe Miko Hardman's popping off big plays, or Juju's playing a little bit better than he has, then things become really, really tough because now it's all this added pressure, and you still have like Kelsey's not going to get shut out in this game. I'd be shocked. If like Jimmy Ward just followed him around all game and Kelsey didn't get anything. I expect them to limit him, but you can't expect to shut those two guys out there too.
It's about slowing them down. That's about it. And limiting opportunities is basically what it comes down to, right? So we've seen this story before. This isn't anything new. Again, you mentioned it earlier. This week has been like a perfect week of like 2012 PTSD, 2019 PTSD, a little bit of 2022 PTSD, just all intertwined.
Perfect storm.
That's why I was like, I'm going to the pumpkin patch tomorrow with the kids. I'm gonna take a break. But it's been wild, right? Because as we know, and what's kicking up the 2012 PTSD is the reunion game. You're going to have Jim Harbaugh, the 2012 San Francisco 49ers. Patrick Willis is going to be there. You're going to have all the old gang back. And it is like the timing, the loss from the Falcons, the constant like complaints about coaching and things like that. Like it is PTSD is flaring this week. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I guarantee you if the 49ers would have wiped Atlanta, this discussion would be way less.
No one cares.
But I do think it is a fun conversation. And that's the thing, right? Like, obviously, people aren't just talking about this to just talk, right? It's obviously on the heels of them coming back. It's been a long time. We all know the backstory with Harbaugh. I think that's one of the most beloved teams in 49er history, even if they didn't get it done. I do think it's a little strange that they're out here celebrating a team that didn't win a Super Bowl. But hey, whatever. I'm cool with that. That's fine if they want to do that. And it's good to see Harbaugh get back there. But yeah, if it just has lent to the conversation. It's so funny that really, when you really think about Jim Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan, when you really think about them, the similarities to their flaws are so close, right? Okay, let's run it down. Real quick.
Flow.
Okay? Game flow, late game situations, and play calling.
Yep.
Clock management. Did you guys forget that the Super Bowl started with a penalty, a delay of game penalty? That was always something that was going on.
And that was it was like a big play to Vernon Davis too, right?
Yeah, right. And it was
a big play.
Delay of game, right? Got to the big game, couldn't finish it, got pretty close other times, couldn't finish it. So funny how everybody wants to point out records and all those things. But Spider-Man meme, Kyle Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh pointing at each other, man.
It is hilarious because when you go back, like those Fangio defenses, just like kind of like the Shanahan defenses, tend to be or feel like the top ranked units, right? That really do a good job of carrying a lot of the weight for the team in general. And it's like you look at Jim Harbaugh and you look at Kyle Shanahan. I remember my biggest gripes with Jim Harbaugh were like expand, or I should also say Greg Roman as well. I can't just pigeonhole good old Jim into that.
And Jeep Christ, because a lot of people just forget that those Harbaugh teams, this is how their play calling went, right? This is how their play calling went. They had Roman on first and second down. They had the guy for the short area third and whatever, and Jeep Chris was their red zone call. So when everybody's
no wonder there's so many flags.
Right. So, and everyone was like, oh, Harbaugh's the one calling all these fades. No. It was Jeep Christ. So if you have an issue with Harbaugh, it's more, why on earth do you have 4 different play callers for 4 different situations on the field? How are any of these guys supposed to get into any rhythm? Like a lot of the revisionist history that has gone into 2012 right now is wild, because it almost feels like you guys just forgot. Like you guys are just like, you're so upset with what happened this past week. You're so upset with what's going on this week that you're just like, oh God, bring Harbaugh back. For what? For the same exact things? Like for the same exact problems? Like what? Like, come on.
Hey man, you gotta look at Harbaugh a little bit, man. He had Colin Kaepernick and he just kept trying to fit him into that ultra old school pro style 3 tight ends fullback type of offense. And you had a Lamborghini like driving around in a big old Cadillac, like trying to like make that work. The offense struggled, and it showed glimpses. It showed, again, hope that it would evolve into one of those elite offenses, but it just never did. They won by controlling clock, not turning over the football, elite defense, elite special teams.
Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
Brett, where have we heard that before?
Let me clutch my pearls real quick. You mean to tell me that Jim Harbaugh's formula is very similar to Kyle Shanahan's formula and this team.
Similar.
What on earth, Brad? That is a revelation. My head's gonna explode.
Right. The only difference is one wears khakis and the other doesn't. One wears Yeezys. Like that's just really
one has more drip and one shops at Walmart. Like that. And it doesn't...
One was more rah-rah, one's more just surgical. Like it's just,
well,
you know.
I will say this, Brad, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to say this.
No,
I do think that a lot of people's frustration with Kyle is that Kyle is seen as the better offensive mind. And I do not disagree with that at all.
I don't disagree either.
So I understand that part of the conversation. I will give you that. Like, if, you know, everybody's lauded him as a genius. I think we've said it a few times. Many people have. That's the difference between Harbaugh and Shanahan. And I think that's why a lot of people are more frustrated, I think, right now with that, on top of all the other things that we noticed. So I will give anyone who wants to have that conversation, I will give them that part of it.
I think if this team had, like, the 2022 San Francisco 49ers had that 2012 offensive line, Joe Staley, Potty, Goody, Boone. I didn't like his personality, but
Davis,
he did play well. Davis, you had that offensive line right now, especially with all the gap scheme that they're running. They're running a lot more power concepts. Holy hell, any running back you could put back there would be a 1,000-yard rusher and with their eyes closed. Like, you know, the offensive line has performed well, like I talked about earlier, with pass protection, but they are struggling to be consistent in the run game. Didn't matter. That 2012 offensive line was doing it all. So I know they typically ran more than anything else. It was straight up, we're going to knock your teeth out. We don't care if you know exactly what we're doing. We're running straight through your face. But if you added that kind of with Kyle's run game concepts, I think, it would be very difficult to stop. But that's what this week is. We're reminiscing. We're trying to identify. We're like trying to diagnose postmortems, like, and then you sprinkle on the 2012 PTSD, because let's face it, we all did really love Jim Harbaugh, and the way it ended, you know, there was other things outside of football that seemed to dictate that divorce. And us as fans, we're not privy to those things. So we just see it as like, what the hell, man? Like, we had something going and it just got ripped out from underneath us. And so that, I think, is part of the sting as well, because you saw those teams go to 3 NFC championships in a row.
Yep.
1 5-yard score away from a touch Super Bowl victory. Oh yeah, you feel
let me tell you something.
PTSD percolating now.
Let me tell you something. And this is what's crazy is you've got the 2019 Super Bowl in the back of your mind, and now you've got the 2012 Super Bowl in the front of your mind. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
2019 hurt. I don't think 2019 hurt, but I don't think there was a long time for many weeks after the 2012 Super Bowl with the Ravens where I would wake up in a cold sweat and just go through those 4 plays over and over again. All right, so real quick, guys, I don't really want to bother you with this, right? But the first play,
we all feel the same, so just get it out. Let's all therapy session. Let's
the first play of that drive, because I am a masochist and I watched that game over again so I could write. I wrote like this
over again.
Yeah, not now. Not lately. No.
I have not rewatched that game.
Oh, I think you should.
On anything, I just like.
So it's pretty fresh in my mind because it was a few years ago when I first broke into the content business. I wanted to write, right? So I wrote this basic oral history of that Super Bowl, right? And the story is centered around the 49ers Super Bowl party I had in my house and everything. My ritual, the same outfit that I wore every single game, and it worked. I drank the same beer every single game, and it worked. Okay, now we went through the motions of all of that, and I watched the game again. That final drive, we just talked about clock management and time issues. Colin Kaepernick takes the ball on a jet sweep, like on a sweep with everybody in front of him, and walks into the end zone. Guess what happened? They called timeout because the clock went down. That was your touchdown to end the game. That was your game-winning touchdown right there, that first one. And then fade. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to open up old wounds, but that one, like when I watched it again,
my stomach just turned when you said that, because I forgot about it. I just think
when I watched it again, like I sat there and I was shaking. Like I was like, oh my God, like that one more second away from glory. They literally had the right, because that Ravens defense was gassed. They were gassed. They were sitting there hoping that the 49ers would not run the ball again because they couldn't stop it. They couldn't. And they run that play. It was a beautiful play call by Jeep Chris. That one was. But right before the clock expired, they called timeout. And that is the play. Like, everybody wants to look at the Crabtree play. That's the one that wakes me up in a cold sweat where I'm just like, oh, my God, man. But let me say this. For all the people that are critical of Kyle, if that was Kyle in that situation, you would be crushing him for that. So, again, just keep the same energy. I think that they're a lot closer in the same way for many things. But, yeah, I just had to get that off my chest, man. That 2012 one hurts worse than 2019. Like I said, there was weeks where I would wake up like, why didn't you run the ball again? Why didn't you run it again at them? Like, Gore was cooking them. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I mean, but that's what it's therapeutic space. We kind of got to just work through it. 2012, man, like, I've never felt physical pain from a game before. Like, that's what that was for me. Like, and again, you just mentioned the sweep. The sweep is out of my mind. And you said it, and my stomach went, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's a real PTSD. Like, if we're all invested, dedicated fans. We love this team. We love football, and we love the logo on the side of the helmet, man. And when we invest so much time, and I remember, like, where we were, they had movie theaters that they would open up the movie theaters to watch the playoff games. It was a freaking vibe. Like, the whole vibe around the San Francisco 49ers during that time, after being so trash for so long, like, you can't replicate that. Like, it was just such, hadn't won since 95, right? You go through all the changing of going away from the dynasty to the straight dumpster fire, all the quarterbacks that came through, the coaches and everything, to then land on Harbaugh, go from Singletary, 6-10 to 13-3 in 1 year, turn it around. You're like, the sky's the limit. Dynasty coming. You have the Seattle Seahawks, like, legendary battles that they had. We're like, oh, this is going to be the next 10 years of 49ers football. And it felt like it just started to slide kind of after that that championship loss.
And I know you guys know me for whatever it is. Spicy Aponte, Atlanta, I was saucy Aponte after the game. So I'm going to ask you guys in the chat real quick. After the game hit all zero and the 49ers lost, what do you think Jason Aponte in 2012, that is 10 years ago, I was 28 at the time, 27, I believe. What do you think was my reaction? And real quick, like, I just want to see what people are going to say. Like, if anybody hits it on the head, because the answer may not be what you think it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think people expected me to just, like, blow up and get that vein going in my head, like, turn all red and yelling.
I would personally expect. I mean, I got a bottle of wine behind me. I got some alcohol. I would imagine you poured yourself a real stiff drink and just drank your sorrows away. But
no,
what did Aponte do?
I took a breath. I looked at everybody and I said, everybody out, like, as calmly as possible. I was like, everybody out. Everybody out. And
because you were having a party, right. So you literally just kicked
and
everyone out.
You're like, my girlfriend at the time, we lived together, and I was like, let's clean up. And, like, it was over. And I just sat on the bed, and she's like, are you all right? I was like, I'm fine, and I just went to sleep. Like that, it took everything out of me. Like, I remember sitting in front of the TV with my father, with a bunch of my friends, and telling my father, oh my God, this is going to be one of those moments that they talked about, like with Joe, like coming back and winning this game. Remember, like, the blackout and all the special teams, and then the 49ers just roar back and they have it right there 4 or 5 yards away. I'm starting to picture the NFL films thing in my head. And when it doesn't go, and when it doesn't go through and it goes to hell, all the energy left my body. And I just sat there in front of the TV and I just went like this. And I just said, all right, everybody out. Not yelling, not rude. Everybody kind of knew too. Everybody just was like, all right, yeah, like, they just got this stuff. And they were like, hey man, see you later. I was like, yep, I'll see you. And I just went to clean. I couldn't do anything that, man.
Hey dude, I feel your pain. I my firstborn was like 2 weeks old. He was born actually the same day that the San Francisco 49ers throttled Green Bay, I think in that divisional round playoff game where Kaepernick went nuts. So like it was like really big for me to just like, oh, I got my firstborn, man. Like he's our lucky charm. Like we're gonna get this. And it was just one of those like just like you said, deflating losses. But that's what it was.
I didn't watch ESPN, NFL Network, anything. I want to say for like 2 months. 2 months. Like I just pivoted away and I just did other things. Like I don't know. Like I couldn't bring myself to watch anything.
No, I have not. Like if there's any glimpse of anything of that Super Bowl that pops up, I'm like, nope. I just can't. Like because like I said, I'm a very passionate fan, but I've never had physical pain brought on me from a game. And I was like, okay, this is something I got to kind of check myself on. Like, I love football, I love it a lot, but if my stomach, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like, maybe I need to take a step back. And so I was like, I'm just not gonna watch that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is, and I think that when people are like, well, it shouldn't affect you, it doesn't. I mean, we're just talking about like feelings. It's not like it's not like if my girlfriend came in the room and was like, we want food, like, no, I don't want food, get out of my face. Like, no, like we're not. It's like
wrapped in the context of football. Like
that's it.
But we like look at us now, 10 years later. Like this clearly it means something to us. But again, it doesn't equate to other like real things in our life.
I gotta say, Brad, I feel a little bit better. I think we just had a breakthrough, like they would say in therapy.
Yeah,
I go to therapy and this is a breakthrough. Like if I had a notepad, I would just be like,
yes,
breakthrough.
We made good progress today. This was a good
session. It's good. It's a good session. It was like, I don't think you're like from Curb. I don't think you're writing anything. I am. I'm ready.
So hopefully the San Francisco 49ers can help kind of pack that PTSD away, especially from the 2019 Super Bowl, because again, a game they should have won. I think we both agree. We don't got to bring that up. We don't got to get into that. I think the 2012 one, that one was so far away. It is kind of, therapeutic in a sense, just to look back. I've got the newspaper clipping from when they won the NFC Championship. Like that was like, I've always been a 49er fan, but like those Harbaugh years and, because leading up to it, when I was old enough, I was like, man, this team just sucks.
Thanks, right?
And
then terrible. I'm old as hell. So I remember I'm getting in on the back end of the dynasty, and I remember the 95 one. I was alive for that, and I remember it clearly. So think about me, right? I'm getting in. There's pictures of me running around with Joe Montana's jersey and beating the Bengals because I am that old. And then I go through this stretch where this team is awful, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy who's wearing khakis and is a nut job and is like wanting to fight other coaches has this team rolling in the right direction. So it's literally like the roller coasters with this team. There's no medium like with the 49ers. It's feast or famine, and it has been for a long time. Either you're going to have a losing season or you're going to get your heart broken in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. Like it's just that's the roller coaster that we've been going through at this point, man. It's so funny, man, because like I remember vividly the 49ers beating the dog shit out of the Chargers, right? I was in a bar in the Bronx, obviously not drinking. I wasn't that old. Don't even try to play me like that in the comments, like if you want to make a joke. But yeah, and I remember that. But then after that, you get all these years of like, Sean Hill and I remember we want Carr and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Troy Smith, and then all of a sudden one coach comes in and that team immediately they make additions. That's the other thing I want to point out with Jim Harbaugh. They made some incredible, Alden Smith was nobody. It wasn't a nobody at that point.
Yeah.
Carlos Rogers.
Goodwin in the middle of that offensive line and like brought everything together.
So again, it's definitely like something that it's like these ebbs and flows, but it's like valleys and peaks more than anything. It's just like it's here, then it's here, then it's here, then it's here. But yeah, I mean that was the part that I think made those Harbaugh teams so special because they came out of nowhere and they were on the heels of a lot of losing and not just like 1 or 2 years of losing, like a decade of losing. Like that is it's not like he snapped like a 1 or 2 year curse where the 49ers were perennially in the playoffs. They weren't even close. They weren't even
No, it was like
anything.
We were like Detroit Lions like level, like wow, we are just a bad franchise. Like what happened to us? Like that's not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be the San Francisco 49ers. Hoisting Lombardis, right? We don't hang NFC Championship banners. So we hang Super Bowl banners. And that's really what the vibe was. So obviously, but hey, I'm not going to lie. Going through those early years and things like that, all that pain
made us stronger.
Go back to last year. That NFC Championship game loss was tough. Doesn't even phase me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, you can't get hurt if you're dead inside.
Exactly. That's really what it was. Like, I was like, oh, we lost and we should have won. What happened? You know?
Yeah. I was like, they blew a lead in a game. I was like, nah, I need to find my Uber and get back to, because I went to the game. I was like, I need to find my Uber to get back, man. I was like,
you know, like I'm like looking at, I'm like, 2019 was worse. Okay, I'm on to the next. Whatever.
All right.
It's a good year.
Well, no, but you know what? The one thing I'll say, yeah, exactly. The one thing I'll say, I was like, you know what? That was a fun season if it didn't end that way, because, 3-5, all that stuff, contextually, it was not like the 49ers were like running away with the season and it just collapsed. Like there was a build up to that and they played their asses off, and it is what it is, man. Like, I promise you, once Garoppolo threw that ball and it bounced off Hasty's hands into, or that flip into the Rams player, I just turned around. Like, I just turned around and walked out of the stadium, and I was like, that's it. Like, it's just time to go. So.
Oh, yeah, you were there for that one, too.
Yeah, I was. It was awesome, though. We were in the 100s for a little while. Like, when Kittle scored that touchdown, I really started to feel it. But, hey, I mean, let's just open up all the wounds, man. You want to talk about the Giants game with Kyle Williams? Let's just talk about it all at this point.
Well, just like our pain as San Francisco 49er fans, a story.
We should do a whole show. We should do a whole therapy show like that, I think, Brad, one day. Like, one day, maybe during the offseason,
we just
relive all the pain. Relive all the pain. Gosh. Bring everybody back in. Let's all talk about it. Let's all talk through it. Let's all give our takes. Let's all talk about what happened in those games. But this might be good for people who don't want to watch that game again, right? Like, that don't want to relive those feelings. But once I think you get it out, you might feel better.
Yeah, and also kind of paints the picture of like, hey, man, we're real 49er fans. We've been to the top of the tippy top, and we've been to the very bottom.
He said, come cry with a Ponte.
Now, that's an episode people will definitely tune into.
I don't know, man. That might be – I'll go on record and probably say that'd probably be our lowest viewed video ever that we've ever done. Probably like 12 people.
No, I think we would resonate with the people, because I think the people feel exactly like we do, because they're fans just like us, and they just want to see this team get to the freaking – what is the quest for 6? Whatever. They should get the 6th ring.
No more mantras. No more mantras. No more slogans.
Yeah.
Like – God, man,
I've had to get rid of the quest. It was great back then, but like, I can't bring myself to use it anymore. It's just like the old coach, old regime. It's like, all right, on to the next. So that 6th ring is, it's off in the distance. We can see it. We are tempted every year.
It's foggy. It's foggy right now.
Rosters, these talented teams. Like, we're like, this is the year. And then we start out 3-3, and everyone's like, "What the hell, man?"
Well, this is me almost every year. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Like, yo, dude, I was so happy. I'm like, I'm going to LA to watch this game, and like, I dumped out an obscene amount of money to go to that game. Like, not only flying, which is expensive to go into LA, but like going to the game, it was an obscene amount of money. I mean, well worth it. I think I have that, and I'm only stronger for it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. And we're going to see how strong the San Francisco 49ers are this weekend against the Chiefs. Again, it's a great litmus test in the sense of everyone looks from a perception standpoint. The Chiefs are one of the gold standards in the NFL. Bills, Chiefs, those are probably one of the 2 most complete teams. Even though the Chiefs have some, weaknesses in their armor, they still got a lot of armor, and they are extremely talented. So it's a great opportunity for the 49ers to bounce back, potentially show what they're made of. Again, the noise is going to be there if a loss occurs. It doesn't matter if they're in it, they're out of it. The 49ers lose, people are going to chirp. They're going to be upset. They're going to look back at 2012, whatever it takes. That's what they're going to do. So just kind of wrap it up. Like, this game against the Chiefs has a lot of implication. Like, it's an important game. Like, it's a big game. I don't know if we can say it's a must-win game. They're still in contention. They're still at the top of the NFC West. The NFC West kind of weak this year, but they're still, tied with a bunch of other teams, but they're still sitting at the top. But it just feels like for our, this therapy section episode, right? For our mental health as fans, feels like a must-win game, right?
It would just be nice to say, hey, look at how they played against one of these teams, because this feels like a game where, again, everybody's counting you out. They played down to competition with 3 other teams. It would be the game that they would show up, right? Like at this point,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you often, Brad, but I am going to push back on the must win here a little bit.
Push
I
back.
think what you need to see is you need to see that litmus test, right? You need to be able to say, hey, they lost this game, but they hung in and they did this and this and this and this, even if like not everybody's back with injuries, right? The Rams game becomes a must win because of the standings, the NFC win, and the NFC West division. That's your must win. If you can get into the bye after that Rams week, 4-4, and Elijah Mitchell returns, everybody else has another week to be healthy, and then you open up Monday Night Football with the Chargers, you're ready for the stretch run. So I would push back on it being a must win. This is not a must win. This would be a way cooler if they did win game than it is more a must-win game. That Rams game I've got eyes on is a must-win game. That's a must-win game.
No, I agree with that. It's a must-win for my mental health standpoint, not necessarily for the standings, because even if they were to go 3-4, you're not eliminated. You're still in playoff contention, and you made the perfect point. It's about winning the division, and right now the division looks winnable. So you got to take care of the Rams, Cardinals, and the Seahawks. 49ers have already done that with the Seahawks and Rams once, but I mean, the Rams are going to be limping into that game, it sounds like, with their offensive line. So it sounds like they're in a bit of a tough spot. So I agree with you in the sense that it's a great measuring stick game against the Chiefs, but you got to win the divisional games, like, or in your division. Like, that's what's got to happen moving forward. So for my health, it's a must-win game because I want to be feeling good after the game. But in the reality of where this team stands in the playoffs, there's a lot of season left. That's why I think the conversations is they can get a little out of control because
it's a little overblown.
We're not there yet. We're not quite there yet. But I understand we are an emotional. We pulled back the curtain a little bit about some of the pain of previous years, so I understand all those types of things. So I want to ask you this question. I don't know. We might see eye to eye here, and you don't have to unless you want to. I'm going to ask you straight up, who wins this game? 49ers Chiefs. If you want to give a score prediction, you can. You don't have to because it is on the spot. But I just want to see, because I don't know. We might be in the same boat. Who do you think wins this game?
My mind tells me when you look at what the 49ers just put on tape, that they're going to come into this game and the Chiefs are rolling off of a loss, right? Like they're rolling in off of a loss and they don't lose back-to-back games. You don't expect that from Andy Reid. I mean, go look at his numbers after. That is a scary, scary number. But I'm going to hang my hat back with my heart and just say that the 49ers win this game. And this is the game that, again, Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there and he plays very well, I think, all the way through. And again, just when you're counting this team out, just when you're ready to throw dirt on them, I can't pick against them right now at this point. See, you and I, today's Thursday, but you and I do our show on Wednesday. And we have the unenviable task of trying to wrap around the last game and then preview the next week's game. What I envy about the 49ers is when the game's over on Sunday, sure, you're going to watch the game again, but you basically flush it because you've got to get ready for next week. So you can put that in the rear view. You and I have to talk about last week's game and then preview this game. Having said all that, when you look at the blueprint that's been out there, the Raiders did a very good job, I feel, on defense for much of that game, aside from the 4 touchdowns they gave up to Travis Kelsey. Obviously, you can't have that happen. But I think largely they missed an opportunity to make one of those other guys try to beat them. But the blueprint's out there. And I think it all boils down to who's going to be available for this game. So my mind wants to say the Kansas City Chiefs record off of a loss is something that you can't ignore. But my heart says there's going to be something going on in that building after the 2012 thing. I would imagine Jim Harbaugh comes and speaks to the team and things like that. You're going to see a moment where Kyle and him talk. And I am going to say the 49ers win. And if the 49ers win this game, you are rolling into SoFi and having a chance to be 5-3 at the bye week and get your entire team back. That's best case scenario, clearly, right? So, yeah, I'm just going to say, you know what? Screw it. This is the one time you guys can call me out on it. I'm being a homer. I am being biased. I am believing in things that are outside of X's and O's and personnel. But I do think that the 49ers do win this game because I do feel they're close on offense. I do feel the breakout's coming. And I am going to say that the breakout comes out this week with the offense. The offense is largely going to carry them to win this game.
I think your logic is 100% sound. Like everything that you say and the way that you explain it makes perfect sense. I felt like we had sound logic heading into the Falcons game. I felt like the way I was looking at the 49ers, even though, you can't really project some of the injuries that were occurring in the game. We knew what they had going into it. Felt like the 49ers should have won that game. I still feel like the 49ers can win this game, just like all the reasons that you said. Your mind kind of believes that the Chiefs can come in, correct it, get back on track, and they have the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, who can just do things that a lot of guys can't do. And the 49ers are hurt a little bit with some of their cornerbacks and things like that. I want the 49ers to win. I desperately want the 49ers to win.
Of course.
But I feel like I need to reverse juju this thing. I was too confident last week. I felt like, I always pick the 49ers to win. We're a 49ers show. It's what we do. I want the 49ers to prove me wrong this week. I want the 49ers to go out and win because just like the bots want to come in and join the party, I feel like the Chiefs have the upper hand going into this game. So I want the 49ers to prove me wrong and reverse this thing because I want them to win this game is what it comes down to. So,
and that's not wrong. Look, you shouldn't look down on fans that are saying anything about like, oh, I'm worried about this game. The Kansas City Chiefs are a very good football team. And, that's why the 49ers are underdogs at home. 2.5 point underdogs, I think is what they opened up as. So that's very logical. What I'm hanging my hat on has little to do with logic, has a lot to do with vibes, has a lot to do with things that are beyond
you
personnel.
Can't quantify vibes, but you can't ignore vibes.
No. So
you cannot.
Yeah.
I like
so
it.
I mean, look, don't worry, Jim Everett the Great. We on your head next week. The 49ers are going to beat the dog shit out the Rams. So yeah, you better hope I think you kind of want the 49ers to beat the Chiefs so they come in and take you lightly, but don't worry.
Yeah.
SoFi is going to be full of red and the 49ers are going to whip you. Oh, they're going to whip your ass, man. God, Andrew Whitworth is not walking through that door. Marshall Faulk ain't either.
And they just lost their left tackle to IR.
Nope.
They've lost like 3 starters on their O-line.
Yeah. Van Jefferson ain't Odell Beckham.
He is him.
He ain't like that.
Appreciate everyone as always tapping in. It was a great talk, Jason, to kind of work through, again, always a rough week after a loss. Sprinkle in the 2012 PTSD. We had a good job kind of working through it. Any other things you got going this week? Anything you want to promote? Where do the people follow you? All that good stuff.
No, Jason Aponte 2103 right here. If you guys know, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Friday we have a Spicy Squad call-in show. We're gonna talk 2012 favorite moments, and if you're a channel member, that's where you're gonna find the link. So I would implore you to join the channel so you can call in, so we can talk about moments from 2012. It's not gonna be a platform for us to discuss whether Harbaugh is a better coach than Kyle. I'm over it. We're not gonna do that. It's just gonna be fun. It's just going to be some fun, and that's going to be something after Sprint Right Option podcast. But yeah, the same content. Check out Niners Nation. Just dropped an article predicting the 49ers to win 10 games this season, get them into the playoffs as well, too. Just based on their pace. They're third through the season. They would have 3 wins. The math is mathing. I do think that they can get to 10 wins, So, you guys know the vibes and everything. And shout out to everybody in here. This was a great show. Shout out to our commenters and all our viewers, man. We really appreciate you. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to both channels, and hit the notification bell for both of us.
I did like that our commenters today kind of felt like we all had the same vibe. Felt like we're all in sync with kind of, it's not always the case. We get yelled at a lot by a lot of our commenters. But it feels like we're all kind of in that same boat.
Having said that, I'm glad you brought that up. Having said that, I have noticed that I pay far too much attention to the people who negatively speak about me and not the people who support. And so being in Atlanta, getting on the plane going into out of New York, right, out of JFK, there's a gentleman sitting in the front seat and says, "Wow, you're Jason Aponte, bro. I watched you on YouTube." And he said, "What's up?" Like on the plane in New York. Dope. Getting off the plane in Atlanta. "Oh, wow, you're Jason Aponte." Going to the Invasion. "Whoa, what's up, bro?" Like, so I have to do a better job of focusing on the people that support, like, and care about my content, as opposed to the one or two idiots who negatively want to yell about me. Because all the messages that I got was keep being you and keep doing you.
That's
and
awesome,
I thought that, and honestly, that little time away when it was good to get away, and see the sights and go, but that really like pushed me to, it was more motivation to say, you know what, you are doing something right. Like that one idiot in your comments, he is an idiot. He is a bozo. Like that's it. Like these other, if there's 50 people supporting you and there's one moron saying something negative about you, focus on the 50 and not the one.
Yep. Great message. Great message for anyone in the content game. And you deserve it, man. You've been grinding out here for a long time, and you are one of, if not the best content creators out here. So you deserve all the praise, man.
Says the guy who had Patrick Willis on his show and is like doing like TV hits. Will you stop it? I saw you on 95.7 the game too.
You stop it. Stop it, Jason. The whole gang's on the rise. But again, we can't do any of this without you guys in the chat. So again, we appreciate you all, as always, supporting our independent content journey and everything that we do. And it all starts with you guys. So as we head out here, go to both channels, sub to both, like both of these videos. It always helps us out, all that good stuff. You know the vibes. But I think I know what comment you're laughing at too.
Oh my God, man.
But hey, we appreciate you guys as always supporting. And guess what? We're going to be back next week, hopefully talking about a Chiefs win. But regardless, we will be here.
Win? A win over the Chiefs.
Thank you. Thank you.
My heart just dropped. My heart just dropped. My goodness, man.
Cut that from the stream.
Can one of our mods
go back? We're gonna.
Can one of our mods edit that out?
Mods, you heard nothing. Go back, edit it, clip it, get it out. That wasn't said. 49ers are gonna win. I promise you.
Yes.
So appreciate you guys. It's time to end the stream.
Yeah.
We're out of here. We're off the rails. Appreciate you guys.
Peace.
Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see